Hi, this is Garrett. What's my name again?
This would be the former, but now somewhat befuddled, Representative Gary Hopper.
Whoa, I
Here
like
in
that
the
guy.
House, trying to introduce the show. And here, I'll send it over to you and
Take
see
it,
if this
take it
game of
away.
tennis
Take
works.
it away.
I'm his humble sidekick. I'm the
Humble?
What was the guy on?
You wrote the book on humility, didn't you?
I absolutely
Yeah.
did. Signed it, had it gold
Wasn't that beautiful?
Had
That
it-
was beautiful.
in gold. Yeah, had it printed up in gold leaf. It's priceless, really. I did write that.
It's
And
probably the
I'm
best
his,
book ever written.
The closest thing New Hampshire ever saw to Ed McMahon on some kind of psychedelic substance. I would be the dubiously honorable Eric Eastman, riding shotgun, and we're proud to invite you to endure us for the next hour because we've got a great guest. Do we not?
I don't know about
I don't know.
You
I
don't
don't
know.
have any
You
idea if
invited
that's a
him.
true statement.
Well,
I
that's
invited him, but I have no idea.
I don't
neither
know if you'll
can-
be saying that in an hour.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we got to reserve judgment
Gary
on
neither
that. What?
confirms nor denies
No,
whether or not you're
we'll
going
at
to
the end
enjoy
of
the
the
next
show,
hour
we'll
of your life.
determine, you know.
Okay.
Anyway,
Go ahead and introduce.
Representative Dave Love
Yeah.
is from the big city of Derry. You got to get a little closer to the mic so
Bring
they
in
can
the
hear
love.
you.
Bring in
It's
the
a
Bring in the
tongue.
love.
Yeah,
and-
it'll do its job. Just be within. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
We got
anyway, this is his first term. We've known each other for a bunch of years. Oh, this is a great story. So, Dave's ankle was pretty messed up, right?
Wow.
Like you were in a lot of pain, right? So we went
my
up.
knee, though.
Huh?
It was my knee.
I thought it was your ankle.
Oh, no. Okay, that was my
The an-
heel.
Yeah, your heel. Okay, so
The heel bow is connected to the.
Yeah.
It is. See? Same thing.
Anyway.
So I went up to an executive council hearing, but I had to bring my my grandson with me, and I think at the time it was probably 4 years ago anyway, right?
He was
So he's
just a
like
kid.
9,
Yeah.
8 or 9, and it was a big hearing. So they had one of those dollies they used to carry all the folding chairs
Sure.
out in front of the governor and executive council office, right in the hallway. And he's 8 or 9, so he's playing on it. Obviously, if you're going to put like roller skates in the hallway, the kids are going to play on it. So he's playing on
Yeah.
it. And
I would still.
Dave and I are over there talking, and Scotty just wings the thing and slams right into his ankle, his bad heel. Tell him what happened.
Well, I have what they call a ganglion cyst in behind my Achilles tendon.
That was the name of my first bar band.
But anyway,
Ganglion
this thing
cyst.
slams into that cyst, and at first it hurt, and then I took 5 or 6 steps on it and said, "It's all better." And
Weird.
yeah, it broke the cyst, and so I still owe him an ice cream.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, he's basically did surgery on him.
Yeah.
Yes, I actually have I don't know if we have time for it, but I'll make it brief. A little story about
Okay, a little story.
about those carts and those chairs in that hallway outside of those very doors.
Those very chambers.
Those very chambers. That's the
Okay, what
second
happened?
floor.
Right.
That's the
Yeah.
second floor of the State House, New Hampshire State House. The floors are marble or cement as if they were. And a lot of hard surfaces. The place echoes, as it would. So this is during the primary season. And Jeb Bush has just registered with the Secretary of State. Of course, there's a lot of media. There's a lot of pomp and circumstance. He's got his people. He's got his supporters.
And you were there with Vermin Supreme.
And I was there with Vermin Supreme, as I often am. So I happened, in a moment, to be talking to Jeb Bush. Tall guy, big tall guy, just robust fellow, and friendly, gentle and friendly. He reminded me of my dad. My dad was that way. He almost played for the Celtics, big tall guy, but smart and friendly. And I'm shaking his hand, literally, and in that moment, one of those metal chairs in that marble hallway fell off of the dolly, the cart, crashed to the floor with a sharp bang. Now this is a
This is
person
not
from
good.
the Bush family who have been surrounded with Secret Service protection
Probably since they were
For half their
born.
life.
for quite some time. So he's conditioned, apparently, to react immediately. I don't know if it's a PTSD thing or if it's just a being on guard thing. But You could see him. He literally froze, and his hands, which are 50% again bigger than mine, and I'm a 6-foot tall guy, so they're pretty big. His hands instantly crushed mine because he just did one of these.
Oh, no way.
And I looked over, saw the chair, looked right up at him immediately, and said, "Just a chair, Jeb." And then you could see him just loosen up and be cool.
It's okay.
But he heard
it's okay.
he heard that sharp, and he freaked
Just
out.
a chair, Jeb.
Yeah.
That is
But
awesome.
I'm not
story.
saying Jeb Bush is a skittish guy. Jeb, I love you. You're a good man, good public servant, but that did happen, so now I just told on you. Sorry, bro.
That's an awesome story.
Let's get back to our guest.
Oh, we can keep going.
That's it. That's all there is. After that, I'm just riffing.
You just riffing?
Yeah.
Sir Dave. So I've
Sir.
known you forever. You've been interested in politics. You ran before.
Yeah.
And actually, it's kind of weird because last time you ran, you didn't win. And this time, well, you didn't make it through the primary last time, right? Is that the big
Yeah,
deal?
yeah, it was- I came up 29 votes short.
On the primary.
It's close.
Yeah, it is wicked close. And then,
close.
so this term, you made it through the primary. And you did really good in the general, too, right?
Yeah, I topped the ticket in the primary and then came in second to Phyllis Katsoukaris, who's the grand dame of Derry politics.
She
Wow.
certainly is.
And I did okay.
That's really good.
Yeah, I shocked myself.
You beat feet on the street. Apparently, you knocked on
Yeah.
a few doors.
Yeah, knocked on a few doors.
Got to know some people.
Yeah, and
So this is Derry,
Hello,
right next
yeah.
to the legendary, famous, and infamous Al Baldessaro's territory.
yes,
He's in Londonderry.
Yeah, yeah,
So he must have been proud to have a
yeah.
ideologically similar person in
Yeah,
the next
yeah.
town over.
Yeah, Al and I are we're good friends. And,
Yeah, sure.
He's such a good guy.
Yeah.
Knows his stuff, man. He grew up in politics. Grew up in
Yeah.
Cambridge politics, of
Yeah,
all things.
he-
So.
as a Democrat originally.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Well, he used to hang with Tip O'Neill. His family did.
Yeah,
The Kennedys. So he knows the game board.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
he
he's
certainly
a good
does.
person to
Yeah.
talk to about stuff.
I like him just because he's a straight shooter.
Yeah.
I love people that
He
just
won't lie to you.
tell you the truth. It's
Won't lie to
really
you.
kind of convenient.
It's nice in a politician when he won't lie to you.
It's your word and your dignity is all you got.
That's all you got, Your Honor. Yeah.
That's it. And,
So anyway, so tell us more about why you ran. What's your motivation? Why do you want to come up and torment those poor Democrats?
for years, I've been concerned about the direction the state and the country's going.
Sure.
Yeah.
I see it going in the wrong direction, and I wanted to try to make a difference. And
Are there some particular issues that resonate with you more than others? That
yeah, like the Constitution.
well,
You
that's
know,
a broad one.
Whoa, whoa!
A little book in my pocket.
Yeah,
here.
Are we allowed to talk about that on radio? On
Maybe
TV
not.
now?
The most elegant founding document for civic architecture ever dreamed up by the mind of man. Yeah, sure, why not?
Was it
it-
by
it-
the mind of man, though?
So I just made that up. That's a nice.
That
It
is
just
nice.
seems like all too often it's the Constitution is tossed in favor of feelings, and feelings is
Nothing
kinda,
more than feelings.
Feelings.
Nothing
more than
I was hoping you wouldn't leave me dangling. Thank you.
Trying to forget my
Feelings
of
of
love.
Anarchy. So, the Constitution, another broad subject. What is it about the Constitution that's most at risk in your view, and what do you want to do about it?
Well, you can start with the First Amendment. It's free speech is quite often kicked to the curb.
Eclipsed.
Yeah.
In what regards?
Where and when?
Yes, where and when?
Let's start with political correctness.
Okay.
Ooh.
The PC thing.
The PC thing.
We're always politically correct on this show, right?
Yeah, and from there it just
Define
expands.
correct.
It just expands from there. Freedom of religion. Don't you dare say Jesus Christ anywhere. Don't bring it up in school. Don't bring it up. It's a taboo subject in a lot of areas of life today, and that's wrong.
Well, when I say the mighty celestial spaghetti monster, nobody says boo.
Yeah. Try Jesus Christ. You'll get a lot of boos.
Oh yeah.
And,
Interesting.
And then you go to the Second Amendment, the constant attack on the Second Amendment, and I'm one of those guys that believes if you don't have a Second Amendment, you don't have anything.
Okay.
Every other right will be just taken,
Does the Second Amendment pertain specifically, or was the semantic intent of the Second Amendment, even in its day, pertaining specifically to militia activity, organized militia activity, or did it pertain to your average person,
A citizen's right,
an individual's
an,
right?
an individual's right to belong to a citizen's militia.
Mhm.
Okay.
Or?
You know, or what?
No, I asked you
and the
that's
right-
actually a loaded question, and it's a little bit bear
Okay.
baiting. And the reason I did that was because people that have a problem with the idea that the Second Amendment, as originally written, pertains to today and should be amended to today's conditions. One of their biggest fallback arguments is that, well, if you read the Second Amendment, it mentions a militia, which means it's only talking about organized militias, which in our day really are synonymous with the National Guard. And that's what they would tell you, and many people feel very strongly that that's a correct interpretation of the 240-year-old language.
Okay,
Whereas
so-
you're telling me it actually pertains to individual rights. Am I correct?
Yes, I have a book
Okay.
at home.
Wait. I want to read this, okay?
I'm not saying which side of that argument I fall
Sure,
on.
yeah.
I'm just saying this is
Yeah.
what one would hear.
Sure.
He's advocating for the devil. Okay, so
I'm running with the devil, man.
okay.
They wrote a
anyway,
song.
First Amendment.
But
Con-
Matt- Okay, go ahead.
Congress should pass no.
Congress shall pass no laws respective an establishment of religion, comma,
All the
or
practice thereof.
prohibiting the
That's
free
right.
exercise thereof, comma, or is that a comma or I can't tell what the
I don't have my glasses.
can you? Your eyes
I
good?
got old.
It's really important. The commas and the semicolons are super important in this.
Okay, I lost them.
I lost the screen and went back to Google search.
Went back to Google.
And by the way, Google's banking all your searches.
Yeah.
Giant database. You might want to
Anyway,
use.
getting back to the Second Amendment.
Yeah, but
No,
I am
no,
asking our guest,
yes.
you know, how you feel about that language.
Well, I've got a book at home called the Second Amendment
Try
Primer.
not to screw it up this time. I'll
Okay.
shoot you.
Second Amendment primer.
Okay, Gary wants me to read this. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting
Include
the,
the punctuation. That's the
Comma.
key. Yeah.
or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, comma, or abridging the freedom of speech, comma, or of the press, comma, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. Period.
Okay, so the reason I bring this up is those same people, because that's basically how the Second Amendment is worded, and I believe there's a comma after militia.
But that's the first.
Right. But this is the
We
first,
just heard the first.
right? And it says the free exercise of religion. There is nobody in their right mind that believes that your free exercise of religion is dependent on, or that your freedom of speech is dependent on your religion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Or that that's dependent on your right to peaceably assemble.
Uh-huh.
Okay, good
Okay?
insight.
So, in other words, these are separate freedoms that you, as a human being, a citizen of the United States, possess, period, and it's written in sections separated by comma, but they're not interdependent. None of them, not
Yeah.
one is dependent on the other. But it's only in the Second Amendment that the liberal commie scum.
Easy now.
No, was that wrong? Was that politically correct? Did I say that wrong? So anyway, it's only
Your
the Second
objectivity is just
It could have been worse,
heartwarming.
Gary.
I know. The Second Amendment, they see the same punctuation and claim that means that one is dependent on the other. That's why I wanted you to read the First Amendment.
Oh, in other words, applying a different standard to one amendment versus another,
Exactly.
and playing games with semantics,
Yes.
also meaning of words.
Anyway, getting back to that book I have at home.
Yeah.
It's got notes from the meetings they had, for our founders, what a lot of them were saying.
It's the
But,
primer. What's the name of the book again?
The Second Amendment Primer.
Primer. Okay.
Okay, and what it says, is
Okay, here's right here.
tell us about a book.
I don't care.
Oh my God.
Right there. See it
Okay.
right in the middle?
See,
Now
I-
include the commas. Read that.
okay, a well-regulated militia, comma, being necessary to the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, comma, shall not be infringed. Period.
Right.
That period's probably one of the most important dots in the whole document.
But what I'm saying is they separated those out
Yes.
in the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. But in the Second Amendment, they want to interpret that as one's dependent on the other, and
Sure.
it has
No,
nothing
it's
to do
not.
with it.
Anyway,
So,
going
anyway.
back to that book.
So you wrote a book.
A well-regulated militia. We're talking about the King's English, not the English we speak today. Okay, regulated in those days meant trained. Okay, so a well-trained militia, being necessary for the security of a free state. Okay,
Right.
sounds pretty sensible to me.
Right.
You know, and let's not forget they just got done fighting a war, and they used a citizens militia. They were very afraid of standing armies. So this whole thing this is about the military doesn't hold water.
Or the National Guard, which is
Doesn't hold
considered
that-
synonymous with a standing militia.
Absolutely. So we're talking about a citizens militia here. And it's the right of us to be able to pick up an arms, meet down at the corner and say, come on, let's go. We've got a country to defend.
Right.
And,
Okay.
and that's what the Second Amendment is to me.
Well, that's certainly the way that Brigadier General John Stark made things happen
Yeah,
up this neck of the woods
Sure.
when he had to.
absolutely. And, you know, that to me is the way it's written. That's what it's about. And to say, oh, that's for muskets only, is insane, because the government isn't going to fight this war or a war with muskets.
Or any enemy that came to try to accost us was not going to use
No.
a ball and powder.
That's it's about fighting a tyrannical government.
It's not
about protecting freedom.
It's not about hunting vermins.
No, it's vermin's from vermin.
I'm going to start that pack. I'm going to call it a super duper pack.
Super duper pack.
So it ain't just for hunting varmints. It's
No.
for
It's not. It's got nothing to do with hunting.
ensuring that people have proportional ability
You
to
can-
defend themselves against tyranny.
We
Yes.
have actually
Okay.
regulated hunting in New Hampshire since the early 1900s. Mm-hmm.
we haven't
There was
regulated
never any
tyranny.
constitutional conflict. But
Okay, so that's a big hot button for you. That
Yeah.
portion of the Constitution. Any others that really resonate with you? That
You
are-
know, your Fifth Amendment rights. They're
Which are?
constantly. Well, you have a right to a lawyer. You have a right to keep your mouth shut and not incriminate yourself.
Sure.
Those type of things. I've got a bill in. I just got the numbers on it. I haven't even seen how it was. How
You
it's
got the
been printed.
LSR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's to prevent law enforcement from interrogating kids in school without a parent or guardian present. Okay, it's done a lot. Okay,
Remarkable.
where are their constitutional rights? It's a violation.
So with a Democratic majority, well, first let me back up before I go there with that question. To which committee is it likely to be assigned?
I'm
'Cause
guessing
these
criminal
bills,
justice.
for those at home,
Yeah.
when representatives draft new legislation or proposed new legislation, either it's a tweak to existing language that's currently in statute, or it's an addition of language with a brand new provision that they want to add to statute. But it's always some change in language. And whether they're new or have been there for a long time, when they submit it, it goes through a sorting and drafting process and all that, and then ultimately that new language or that new proposal is assigned to a committee to be scrutinized further by 21 people-ish. So, in your case,
In my case, I want to make sure that kids' constitutional rights aren't violated.
so which committee is going to be looking at?
I'm guessing criminal justice,
CJ.
as
Could
in,
be child and family too, right?
Interesting.
or it could be education, because a lot of it happens on school
It could be
property.
education.
Yeah, they haven't told me yet.
So you've got the majority control in the House
is
has
actually-
changed. So it'd be interesting to know how that goes.
Yeah,
See, that's actually kind of an interesting variable, is that a speaker basically determines where bills go. He gets to decide ultimately.
The Speaker of the House.
Speaker of the House. The
Right.
Speaker of the House, if they don't like a bill, they can send. They typically won't send it to a completely abstract committee, but they can send it to a committee that's a little bit more favorable or unfavorable. Like in this case, it's not necessarily clearly criminal justice. It could be child and family. I don't think child and family, but maybe education.
So they can stack the deck
Yeah.
and control the fate
Sure.
of this
And,
stuff.
The thing of it is, I think it's got bipartisan support. No Democrat that I've talked to has said that's crazy.
What are the libertarians saying about it?
The,
Have you talked to any?
everybody
Just curious.
I've talked to Max Abramson. He thinks it's wonderful.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
You know,
Is,
Demo-
is Caleb
Democrat-
Dyer back?
Huh?
Did Caleb Dyer make it through the gauntlet? He didn't
he did not.
get back in. He, Brandon Finney, they're all out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they ran as.
So there's no more Libertarian caucus in the House.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, because they came on the show. Were you?
I was
hosting?
here. We were
Yeah,
here.
and
Sure.
the end of last spring,
Yeah.
right, or early summer, and they were here explaining how that they've done so well at informing the voters that they're going to absolutely vote for them based on who they are, not party affiliation.
It's good to be
And-
confident.
It is. It
But-
didn't help.
But it's hard to reach folks that are plugged into the big propaganda tube.
Correct.
You know?
I don't disagree.
you know what? I don't think people are very well informed at all in New Hampshire.
I was on the way to the State House today, and I'm not going to say who it is, but there a very nice lady in town stopped me. I was getting coffee, and she says, "Well, you're going to work today. What about the government shutdown?" So that's the federal government. The state. This has nothing to do with the state. Oh, okay. But she's not. She's not.
And you're an elected official, you're not an employee.
Well, whatever. Anyway, she obviously didn't. She votes every 2 years. She votes for me, luckily.
Mm-hmm.
But it's obvious that most people are just trying to live their lives. The fact that it matters who they vote for is kind of problematic.
Mm-hmm.
Government shouldn't have so much sway that people care that much
Yeah.
Or need to.
or need to.
Yeah, like my buddy Rand Paul said, I want government so small you can barely see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. But,
And he believes in a lot of social policies that people on the progressive left are very happy about. So,
Uh-huh.
you know, it's he's not just a big mouth conservative.
Mhm.
So
yeah,
I am.
I've run into people
You are.
that voted for me. You know, they say, "Oh, I voted for you because I saw a lot of your signs."
Yeah, so advertising
all right,
works.
All right. Saw you on the side of the road waving. They have
Right.
no clue where I stood on anything, but
guy wants the job. Give him the job.
that's it. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, I could be all for blowing everything up. You know, and
Well,
they wouldn't have known.
When my first, I think it was my first
Yeah.
term, there was, what's his name from Nashua was elected. You remember him.
We love you, voters. We really do. We're just advocating, maybe reading.
It's tough. It's tough. I'm not
Take-
going to.
just. It's hard to. People have busy lives. You said
They
it
have they're
yourself.
very busy lives. They want to go. They try to do their best, and by the time we get to a general election, which is the big one, they're getting 24/7
Absolutely hammered.
ridiculous attacks that actually don't mean anything, but they're attack ads against A, B, C, D,
Yeah.
and they get to the voting booth, and it's like, okay, well, I'm not voting for A because he did this to his mother-in-law, or I'm not voting
or
for
so
B.
we're told.
And so we're told, yeah, it's all BS, right? So by the time they get down to the state rep race, they go, oh yeah, I saw a lot of his signs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's.
Or I
it's-
like the colors.
I like
Yeah.
the colors. Yeah. So. So
I'd
I
like,
get it.
I'd like to see people make more of an effort to find out just who and what they're voting for.
You know, they wouldn't vote for you then.
Sure they would.
No,
Yeah.
no, I wouldn't.
I,
I would never vote for you.
Well, another thing, I'm sorry, sounds like I'm a bit of a sycophant with my buddy Rand Paul there. But another thing he did tell me that I thought about a lot was a very simple observation, which is that we who believe in the foundations of our country, in other words, the founding principles and guidelines
Yeah.
of our country, and believe that they still pertain to today and they haven't aged out or anything like that. We just have to become better salesmen. We just have to become better salesmen and salespersons at helping people care enough or want to care enough about looking at the thing a little bit more deeply.
Yeah.
And
I think
that's
it's.
it.
I think it's incumbent on us to, and I don't know how to do it. I know what I need to do. I don't know how to do it. Dave was co-sponsored a bill with me today.
Okay.
I mean, co-sponsored a bill with me today. It was heard before the Veterans Affairs Committee.
Oh, excellent.
Okay. And what it is, it's House Concurrent Resolution 4, if you want to call your legislator and ask them to support it, that'd be super cool. House Concurrent Resolution 4
You've told me about this. I think.
asks the local radio and TV stations, please, when there's a mass shooting, do not publicize
The name,
the name and the face of the kid that did it.
if it's a kid or whoever.
Well, whatever.
However,
A lot of times it's young people. And at my age, everybody's a
In
kid.
other words, don't make them into a supervillain,
Correct.
which is very exciting, and in their dreamland, that may be just what they're looking for.
Well, it's studies have shown in the last few years, when us three were growing up, if you asked a kid what he wanted to do when he grew up, it was going to be fireman, policeman, astronaut, president, whatever. You know what the number one thing kids want to be today? Multiple studies have come to the same answer. The one thing kids want to be today when they grow up is
Is there a-
famous.
Because they're gamers.
Well, no, gamers don't get famous. They want to become famous. Well, that's a part of that's one
So-
of the variables
The media-driven cult of personality is winning.
is winning. And so
Yeah,
how can you get famous
I'm
really?
guilty of that. I became an actor and all that kind of crazy.
Yeah, I know you're a thespian, but anyway,
Oh, I am. No, I'm. I'm gonna leave that alone because that'll play that joke.
yeah,
Anyway.
that's just too much. Anyway,
Moving
so you have that variable combined with the idea of these people are obviously mentally disturbed. They're usually loners. They've usually been on psychotropic drugs. They're usually fatherless. There's all kinds of isolating pieces of information about who does this.
So there's common variables.
There's common variables. The problem is if you took those common variables, you would find that there's probably 500,000 kids across the country that fit that description. So you can't put them all in protective custody until they're older. So that you can't do that. So you get. But anyway, one of those variables of the actual shooter is they tend to research and idolize people that did the Columbine shooting or this other shooting, and they read their
Parkland.
manifestos and they almost like cult followers of these people. Okay, so you've got all these variables coming together to create a situation where somebody can fill all these twisted fantasies or ideas all at once in a matter of minutes.
So I'll capture significance in a matter of minutes if I commit some heinous act of hyperviolence,
Correct.
and somehow it's morally justified because the end justifies the means.
Well, there's
Th-
no
then I'll
moral
be known.
justification. It's revenge typically.
Well, yeah.
Revenge-
I mean, the
revenge
Columbine
is-
thing had a lot to do with bullying. There were
Yeah, it was revenge.
there were issues there.
Yeah.
So
So anyway, we know that roughly, I forget what the numbers that we used in the thing, but 20 to 30% of mass shootings are motivated by previous shooters.
and an idealized notion of what will happen to me if I become one.
Yes. Yeah, fantasized in their fantasy land that they're going to become supervillains.
See, I didn't know all these details that you've obviously done the research to
So
figure out.
So the bill basically says stop giving them a platform, because somebody's not going to try to get famous if they know they shoot people or blow them up. It doesn't really matter how they do it. The means aren't really relevant. What's relevant is if they know if they do it, if they know that they will never become famous and nobody will even know who they were. You've eliminated, theoretically, 25% of the mass shootings.
That's
So
astonishing. So this is, I mean,
so
documented
it is
studies. and all
documented.
that
This
kind of
isn't.
thing.
This isn't. I
There's a
didn't
lot of studies on all these mass shootings.
copycat
So how
or
do you square the this cancerous environment, culturally speaking, that is creating this diluted passion for fame, with the idea that our Second Amendment rights have to continue to remain unabridged? What do we do as responsible adults to curb the one while not curbing the other,
We've
in your opinion?
we've got to go back and well, Gary mentioned a few things. The fatherless homes.
Sure.
Okay, 38 out of 39 of the last mass shootings, the guys came from fatherless homes. Okay, we've got to stop the. Gary put in a bill years ago about the no fault divorce. Okay, people laughed at him, but the fact of the matter is,
They laughed at me?
We've got to
Wait a second. Wait, let's go back.
We're laughing. We're laughing with you, Gary. Aren't we?
you know,
Everybody, send Gary some good energy right now.
I'm
American
feeling very
society is real
vulnerable.
sick. You know, we've got a cancer. You know, within society, the fact that our families are falling apart is a big part of it. Okay.
Okay, so now we're digging in the dirt. Now
Yeah,
we're talking about
okay. These kids that come from broken homes, they end up with all kinds of depression and other kinds of mental illness, and we put them on poorly tested drugs.
So we're advocating for an uptick in reinforcing traditional family values and parental responsibility
Yes.
as being one of
As
the
opposed to
silver
medicating-
bullets to
Yeah.
prevent this kind
As
of.
opposed to medicating your children to.
Sure. Most of those psychotropic drugs, if you read the long list of the paper that's about this
Yeah, all the
thing,
disclaimers.
the disclaimers, they have on average a 3% incidence of homicide and suicidal thoughts.
Well, no, they say suicidal ideations.
Ideation,
The
yeah.
problem is they don't invert that because a person who. This is a really cool. This is one of the most, sadistic experiments they've ever done. It's super funny. So they took.
Realistic, super fun.
It's wicked funny. So they.
Welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades.
No, I love this one. Okay, so they take these little toddlers, right? So they're just at that age where they're kind of mobile, but they really can't talk. And they put them in this room. It's a nice, well-lit room, nice, colorful room, right? And then mom walks out of sight. And then they put they have a plexiglass door so the kid can't come out of that room. Little boys, when they come up and realize they can't get out, will try to break down that door. They'll run into it and bang it and stuff like that. Little girls will sit down and cry. Same exact scenario, just a completely different. One's self-destructive and one's aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a little, by the way, I didn't mention it in the testimony today, but it is also true that if you publicize suicide rates will go up amongst kids.
Yeah, sure.
Don't fear the Reaper.
So what happens if you have taken medication that have suicidal ideations? Well, the inverse of that, if you're not going to get self-destructive, is to get aggressive and attack somebody else.
Yeah.
And so it's really two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
So when they say that, I don't think they say homicidal ideations because.
I've read homicidal in those.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, so I've never
okay.
seen that.
But what I'm getting at is, you go to any high school, a high school nurse will tell you half these kids are on these psychotropic drugs.
Oh,
So if
yeah.
you have 2,000 kids in a school, that means 1,000 of them are on psychotropic drugs. 3% is 30 every day walking around saying, I just want to kill something. Whether it's me or something else, I just want to kill, I want to kill, I want to kill. That's too many. You know,
Well-
that's not acceptable at all.
Well,
But apparently in the pharmaceutical circles, that's okay.
But the APA is a very strong lobby, and they want to make sure that their free market buck
Free
is,
market,
is, is
yes.
earned.
So we'll blame the
today
NRA
and
instead of the
tomorrow.
APA.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
This has nothing to do with the Second Amendment. It's about a sick society, and
Yeah.
you were
But
saying.
how do we keep from eclipsing the one while it responsibly and productively address the other? Because we'll deal with the world as it is, and we're talking right now about the world as it is.
Sure.
And the complication, the solutions appear to be too complicated for three guys in a room to figure out.
No,
Because
they're not.
No, they're not.
We got it. We
Okay.
got this covered.
When
What are
when you're doing something and it's not working, you stop, and you do something different. Okay, I don't
Whoa,
I don't know what
whoa.
the real answer. I don't know what the right
We
answer
don't let
is.
that kind of radical talk on this show. We have limits, Dave.
Did you know that that's actually the literal definition of the term repentance? To stop, turn around, and go the other way.
Yeah.
That's what all it means.
And repentance in this in this case, might be a pretty good idea. What I do know is what we're doing isn't working.
Right.
What we're doing has catastrophic effects.
The stats do seem to support what you're saying.
Yeah, and throughout my life, when my life's been going haywire, I've had to stop, evaluate a little bit, and go in a different direction. I think that's what we need to do here.
Wow.
You
You're
know,
not Irish then.
Jeez, well,
No, I'm Irish.
There were years
We
and
have
years and years. I
difficulty-
just added more fuel to
We
the
have
fire.
difficulty, we march forward. If it gets really bad, we march faster.
Much harder.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only people group that are
May-
absolutely impervious to therapy.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, my son was telling me, and I shouldn't say this on the air because it's probably some sort of hate crime. He was telling me that
And yet he will.
he will, yeah.
Right.
That if you look at the Irish as a whole, they are actually one of the more or least stable cultures as far as schizophrenia and different kind of mental.
Yeah, I think a lot of self-medicating goes on there, and
Well, I think the self-medicating might be because of
Sure, yeah.
the mental disorder, the mental anguish inside somebody's head. They're going to keep drinking just to try to shut it down. Mm-hmm. So it's not really, the in other words, the mental disorder precedes the addiction.
So another brawl or a Guinness. Another brawl or a Guinness.
I mean, they're not mutually exclusive.
No, they're not.
Oh, so
But if I had to pick one, I'd go with
sure,
a Guinness.
back in my Guinness days, they went hand in hand.
No, Guinness makes it. It's good for you. That says so right up on the poster.
Yeah.
So Constitution and its value and its erosion over the years is bugging you.
Yeah, it seems like today we go more on feelings, and feelings change.
The way people vote, you mean? Make policy and all that?
Make policy, the way our laws are passed up and conquered in Washington based on feelings, not on Constitution.
I'll give you a
Okay.
good example of that, Sir Eric Wiesman. Sorry. A good example of that is New Hampshire is probably safer than most European countries. The safest state, I think, in the Union.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case,
Vermont.
and
I believe it's
Might be.
Vermont, Maine, and then New Hampshire, but
anyway, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You have
Also a constitutional carry belt.
all three.
right.
Imagine
All three
that.
have constitutional carry.
Just put it out there.
They have probably more guns per person than any place else in the country, including Texas.
Yeah, no.
Right.
I got you.
And-
I have you guys.
And yet, it's the safest.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that tell you? What we're doing works.
Yes.
Well, what we know about
There's got to be other factors, though. There are those that would argue that there's way more factors involved. There's this socioeconomic fabric. There's opportunity, amount of opportunity, vocational opportunity, climate.
climate.
Yeah,
It's freezing, dude.
yeah. People
I don't know if you
people
stay
don't want
in
to
the
run
house.
around South Central popping each other to prove turf rights, because it's not perpetually
No,
70 degrees.
it's-
We're all hiding inside the house.
But if you go to places like Chicago,
It's cold there.
That's cold there too. Yeah,
cold there too.
You got me.
But the problem is you have the cultural problem is you got so much fatherlessness in Chicago. Huge percentage of those kids don't know who dad is. Okay, so you couple that with the fact that nobody can defend themselves except the drug dealers who will do it anyway.
Okay.
How can you have anything other than violence?
So let's reel it into our jobs here in the state, which you've voluntarily adopted the mantle of civic responsibility as essentially a volunteer to give a ton of your time and attention for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And you've already been doing it because you've been sort of an activist
Yes.
and you've been involved.
Yeah.
I do the same thing.
Sure.
But now you've got the title, you got the job, you're in the chair, you can press the button, you can write proposed legislation. If there were a top 2 or 3 things in a perfect world you would see accomplished and put into statute, signed by the governor, during the short 2 years that you've got to work with, what would they be?
How about living by that oath? So something put in statute that you live by that oath to uphold both constitutions,
There's already something in step.
or you take a hike.
Or you lose your
You lose your seat.
seat.
Yeah,
Okay.
I see. I've been, like you said, I've been an activist for a long time, and I look at voting records, and there's nothing constitutional about the way some people vote.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. The
But
AFP calls them, I think it's AFP, or is it NHLA, calls those that don't vote in accordance with constitutional precepts constitutional threats. That's the
Threats,
title they
absolutely,
give them.
Yes.
They don't give them an F.
Yeah, and I'd love to see something like that because
I don't
if you're
know-
if you're going to take an oath, all you've got is your word at the end of the day. And if you've taken an oath and you've broken that oath, well, your word's no good.
I think
And,
I think you can be removed for perjury, right?
I,
You can
I believe so.
yeah, I'm
I'm not positive.
perjury in what context? During
Perjury-
testimony? Or,
perjuring yourself.
yeah, but that's in a court of law when you're under oath.
Right. Well,
that particular oath.
when you take an oath, okay, if you break that oath, you are perjure. You are a perjurer.
you perjured yourself.
You have perjured yourself. They have broken the law. If you can clearly prove that they've voted against the Constitution, then they have perjured themselves, and I think you have a reason for dismissing them.
Grounds for dismissal. But what
Yeah.
what would
I'm not
the
positive.
objective tribunal be that would weigh these things?
That's
that
the
would make
hard
these
part, is
judgments?
because your understanding of what the Second Amendment might mean different. Like, in other words, let's go the opposite extreme, and we get the next group of elected officials is further to the right than you and I have ever thought of. Okay, and there's a
Is there such a place?
yeah, there is. It's called the Abyss. So anyway, to the right of us, the Abyss, there's the whole group of people get elected, and
Mel Thompson says the water's just fine.
yes, and so they try to pass a law to make it legal in New Hampshire to make your own rocket launchers, and you and I vote against it. Say that's stupid.
Oh, it isn't? Because, never mind.
Anyway, and you and I vote against it because that's just ridiculous. Okay? And now in their eyes, we're breaking the Constitution because we're not defending the right to bear arms, because a rocket launcher is certainly an arm of some sort, or a howitzer is an arm of some sort. Nuclear weapons are, if they pass a law so that everybody can have their own, tactical nuclear weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And we say, no, that's wicked stupid.
Yeah.
And we vote against it. And they say, well, obviously. So
Well,
whose interpretation is the question?
That's why I
guess
asked.
I
Yeah,
guess
no.
would have to refer to Supreme Court rulings and stuff. Not that I always agree.
So that would be a
But-
whole adjunct or facet or whatever of the legislature. In other words, that would be like in a police department, you have internal affairs,
Yeah.
right? Who try to theoretically keep their
Well,
cops
but-
honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bless you, my son. So how we would frame that and get it going would be an interesting.
Absolutely. It'd be real interesting.
Yeah.
I just think it needs to be reined in, reeled in, and because there's just bizarre things.
What about the redress of grievances? That language was in the First Amendment that we read out loud on this show a little bit earlier as we were setting up to talk about
It
the second.
seems awful difficult to really bring anything like that forward.
We've tried.
Sure.
Oh,
yeah,
sure
it's,
we have,
yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
And a lot of it happens in the family court. People having real honest, really solid grievances,
Sure.
and
Sure. The government done me wrong, or the
That's it,
court's
and-
done me wrong. or
yeah,
something.
and it seems like nobody's grievances ever get heard.
Yeah, well, that's because, I'm not going to take a slam at a
Sure.
libertarian swipe at government, but that's
No, I mean,
because
there's-
people who are in power don't like to be held accountable.
Sure, yeah.
We'll just say
th-
that.
th- There's one that's going to go down in flames. Myself and Tim Horrigan he's
My
a
buddy
front-
Tim
Sir,
from Durham.
Sir Tim of Durham.
Yeah.
Have a bill in to reestablish the registrar of probate.
You and Tim together on the same
Yeah.
bill.
Yeah, well, because I agree with him. He's
Very
right.
Interesting.
In the 2011 season of the legislature, in an effort to streamline the court systems, we've basically eliminated the register of probate. The register of probate used to be somebody you could go to and say, the will on my dad, we're going through probate on this will. Can you check to see what's going on? And they would, contact the right people and know the right people and find out what's going on and advocate for you in the judicial system. And that's what one of the things the register of probate did, and keep track of these things. The clerk of courts now basically takes care of most of that. It's completely centralized in Merrimack, I think. I forget what court. It's completely centralized, and all these registers of probate, we're told basically you can get $10 or $100 a year, and go home. We don't need you anymore. Oh, by the way, you're responsible for keeping records, but you don't have an office. So they've what?
Is this all the counties or just
Basically,
certain
yeah.
counties?
Yeah, the whole thing.
Because didn't Elizabeth Ropp run for registrar
Yeah,
of
she
probate?
did.
And
And-
win?
She did.
Yeah.
Right.
So she's got the job.
She's got the job,
In her
but she
county.
can't. I don't think she can do anything.
Oh,
And so
wow.
Elizabeth is one of the. She's a nice lady.
She's a great lady.
Yeah, so she's one of the people that sent the committee, Judiciary Committee, an email asking us to support her, the bill. But that bill's going to go down in flames. I know it's going down in flames. Why? Because it's convenient. The way it's set up right now, everybody thinks it's going well and it's convenient, and the court likes it, and the court likes power. And the legislature is typically very close friends with the court and department heads. And so even though it's Register of Probate is a constitutionally provided for position, the person is elected every 2 years as Register of Probate in every county. Sorry for the audience, my nose is
Yet
driving me nuts.
they don't want to have to uphold a standard of customer service for the citizenry that they find burdensome or
Well, see, that's
something like that.
It doesn't even matter. I don't care if their service is better than it was before. Because what they've done is they've eliminated a constitutionally provided for position. And I used that in the testimony today. It would be like the legislature, let's say we had a supermajority, and we had a Democrat in the corner office, Republicans a supermajority, and we write legislation to eliminate the governor and council. Right? Well, the governor and council is in the Constitution. Do we have a right as a legislature to eliminate it off the face of the planet and tell them, get your stuff out of the corner office, we're using that for a break room?
Not
Or-
a constitutional amendment, the way I
Exactly.
think.
So
or
if
to
you
curtail their job or to trim back on their
to do anything.
on the breadth of their powers.
Correct. So to me, what we've done, even though it's a register of probate, so people don't really know that much about it, it's still the same thing. You've violated the Constitution, and whether or not this new way of doing it is convenient, better, is irrelevant and not really, to me, pertinent to the conversation.
So they're more interested in like administrative expediency than they are in sticking to the letter of the Constitution.
Right.
Here's another one, the abortion center buffer zone.
Yeah.
Okay,
Controversy plus.
You know, a First Amendment violation, the Supreme Court's ruled on it. There's 3 different words in the New Hampshire law. That's all that separates it from the Massachusetts law.
Sure.
And the difference is Massachusetts has a 15-foot circle around the door, and we have up to 25. Those are the 3 different words. The Supreme Court found that to be blatantly unconstitutional, is the words they use. Okay, but a 9-0 vote. We've got Sotomayor, Kagan, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. These are very pro-abortion people.
Yep.
That voted that that the Massachusetts law was blatantly unconstitutional. But the kicker to this whole thing is they also ordered the state of Massachusetts to pay $1.4 million, I believe it is, for the plaintiffs' legal fees. Okay, so that was in 2014.
Really?
If you add inflation to that, we're probably looking at 1.8. Okay, for the residents for the citizens of New Hampshire, if our law gets brought to the Supreme Court, plus our own litigation bill. The state's attorneys are going to need some money to work with. So you're looking at a $2 million bill. Okay, if that isn't blatantly an unconstitutional act, when you're elected to public office, you've certainly been given the responsibility to mind the purse strings.
Certainly.
Okay, and in this instance, we're taking an ideology over the Constitution, that First Amendment, and that responsibility of minding the purse strings. To me, that's something that oath of office. Take a hike.
Yeah, I think
That's job one. Your constituents hired you to serve them.
Yeah,
That's
that
it.
vote. There was a vote to repeal that buffer zone
Yes.
law that has never gone into effect, actually, because they never implemented it. That was killed in committee, I think, 12-4, or 13-4, or something like that.
So you've got 13 people that voted against the Constitution, and 4 of them cared about the Constitution. Okay, and they're voting on an ideology. We're voting on feelings now, that a woman has the right, okay, to an abortion. Feelings trump the Constitution. I can't find that
no,
in
I
there.
think there's more to their argument than that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not devil's advocating
there
again,
is a
but
lot more
there's
to their
way,
argument.
there's way more to it. But at the end of the day, I guess you could characterize it as feelings because when somebody says my body is my provenance and therefore I get to do what I want with it, irrespective of what I've done prior to cause me to have this new condition of being in gestation. I guess you could call it feelings when somebody says this new circumstance, me being an incubator, doesn't fit my life. My body's my provenance, so I feel as if I have the right to terminate and all that kind of thing.
And that isn't what the argument is about, but that's what gets thrown into it. Okay? The argument,
Okay.
the bill itself
It's just about that buffer zone.
was to repeal that buffer zone.
And that had to do with protesters and their proximity to the front door.
They weren't
Sure,
even
yeah.
protesting. They're
They're-
actually just praying
Picketers.
outside.
They're praying and handing out literature. You don't have to do this. We'll help you. There's resources available to help
People
you.
trying to
that
alert
type of stuff.
impressionable young ladies
Sure.
to the fact that they're
Yeah.
walking into an abortuary,
Yeah.
in their opinion.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
And
Got
but the fact of the matter is, because
There is another side to that argument, and we only get a couple minutes, so I'm going to just give it so the viewers don't believe that's all this
Sure.
side. The other side of that argument, and the reason some pretty sharp Republicans voted against the bill, is because currently we already have buffer zones in the state of New Hampshire that are in place, because everybody remembers the not Danbury. What's the Baptist group that protested?
Westboro Baptist Church.
Westboro.
Westboro Baptist. After the Westboro Baptist kept attacking people assaulting people at military funerals, we
Yeah, they're hard
we
on
have
folks.
a buffer zone that protects the people who are mourning their loved one, so these jerks can't interfere. And so we do have buffer zones in the state of New Hampshire, and so their argument is giving people 25 feet to get in and out of what they consider a medical facility is not unreasonable. So there is that other side of the argument. In other words, they don't believe that 25 feet is really a violation of their free speech because they can still express their free speech, just not that close.
Talking anywhere above a whisper, you can be heard across 25 feet. So-
25 feet is not
so
a long
I
distance.
think that argument does hold water.
in order to get if I'm talking to somebody over at the door, I've got to be loud. I've got to talk loud.
Louder.
They're not going to pay much attention to what I've got to say.
And it's their right not to.
Okay,
'Cause
it's
you're-
their right not to. But
on the
we're
periphery.
talking a public sidewalk, and they're taking people for what they believe. Okay, just a group of people. Okay, anybody else can walk through there, but not this group.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Therein lies a problem.
Yeah,
Okay.
so-
The thing with the Westboro Baptist Church, you're talking about on funeral home property. Okay, it's not public property. They're in the parking lot. You
It's
can't
even,
go there.
even in the
Okay.
yeah, but it's at the funeral itself. I mean, in the
In the cemetery itself, a lot of
But anyway,
most
I'm just
cemeteries
saying. I'm just saying it's not as cut and dry as as you presented it.
That's a
And
big can of
obviously,
worms.
I agree with you because I voted that way.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to make sure that people understand there's more to these arguments than what more to oh,
Than
gosh.
what we can cover
Hey,
in what's
so
left
next
of our
week
show.
I'm hoping to show up without blowing my nose and sneezing. That's my big goal for
Yeah,
next
but
week.
what people are the takeaway for today, what people are gonna remember is that spanky tie. I'll tell you right now.
It is
Talking-
the best. Dave, Representative Love.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Eric.
Dave, thank you
Thanks
for
for
your
having me.
service. Thank you
Thanks
for serving New
sharing-
Hampshire.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you
Yeah.
for serving
Eric,
your neighbors.
As a pleasure, it's,
Oh.
as usual. And we'll
Always.
see you guys next week.